when I think about what work we are doing as an industry and what work I am doing, it's about maintaining focus and making sure that you look at life as a marathon, right? It's not just a sprint. You do sprints, but at the end of the day, wait, the flagging starts happening at the end.
You're listening to the Building Better Futures podcast, where innovation meets inspiration. In each episode, host Eric Hirani journeys alongside notable thought leaders who are shaping the future, cultivating exceptional work cultures, and nurturing the next generation of trailblazers. We aim to spark inspiration by engaging in dialogue with leaders from groundbreaking companies, innovative projects, and exceptional teams. Our goal is to empower individuals to positively impact those around them and leave a lasting legacy of positive change in our communities and society at large. Let's dive in together and explore what it takes to build better futures, one conversation at a time.
Today, I'm joined by Priya Jain, President of Americas for Mace Consult. Priya, thanks for taking the time to talk to me today.
Appreciate it, Eric. And thank you for having me on the podcast and looking forward to a rich discussion.
Of course, yeah. And before we get to that rich discussion, I always like to start with good news and gratitude. So I'll open it to you. Is there any personal or professional good news, gratitude, something you'd like to share with me in the audience?
What great idea. And I'm going to steal that one from you, Eric, because I'm going to start my meetings with that now. So I would say since it's the end of the year, typically I do end up spending some time reflecting on what has gone by, use that as a way to get ready for next year. So in this particular case, I would say tons and immense gratitude for my team. The whole America's team, I kind of want to do a shout out to them because they are the ones, their commitment to clients, their innovation is what has led us to deliver on our business commitments, but more importantly, the impact we are having on our communities. So it's really about the team, and that's what I'm grateful for.
I love that. And I actually have a similar gratitude. And on every episode, my gratitude is to the guest. So I will share that. Thank you. I know your schedule must be immensely busy. I can't even imagine, especially, at this time of year, but my gratitude is to you. But beyond that, I also have a lot of gratitude for my team. In 2024 we did our first like true annual planning session and like 10-year vision and 3-year vision kind of exercise. And the team has just been incredible to work with. So my gratitude is to my team as well. And I love that you shared about your team.
And similarly, again, thank you for having me on. So,
Oh, of course. No, not a problem at all. So Priya, to start, tell us a bit about yourself, your background, your role at Mace. Tell us about Mace and what they do. Let's set the expectations for the conversation.
absolutely. So, Eric, I'll start off with my technical background. So, I'm a civil environmental engineer by technical training, about 30 plus years in the industry. And I have been fortunate enough to have worked across a spectrum of programs and projects across multiple sectors. And why? And I think if I think about the experiences I've had, one of the key things that has resonated for me is this: how do you stay resilient during these programs and projects, right? And just on a personal level, I do I believe a lot in just kind of making sure that you stay physically strong, but then also mentally strong. And one of the things I really do is I I walk a lot, or because that gives me time to reflect, or I run a lot, right? And why I'm saying this is when I think about what work we are doing as an industry or what work I am doing, it's about maintaining focus and making sure that you look at life as a marathon, right? It's not just a sprint. You do sprints, but at the end of the day, wait, the flagging starts happening at the end, right? So I love running marathons, but I love running marathon not just because I want to go get to a time, because it gives me an opportunity to look around, see what's going on, but then at the same time get my mental strength going when I start flagging. So, so lots of experience, and had been over the years built up that experience, and I think it's becoming culmination of why I'm at Mace. When I think about what brought me to Mace is Mace was very, very focused on delivery. Mace had picked a sweet spot and said, we are going to be the people who are going to be future thinking and help go deliver these big mega programs. And it's not just about, it's, we don't do design, we don't do construction. What we do is work with our, collaborate with the supply chain, collaborate with the client, collaborate with communities. And our goal is we're going to quote like this program deliver, whatever that program is, whether it's whether it's building the Tiffany's Fifth Avenue store, whether it's delivering metro links, whether it's going in and building schools in. So it's really all around delivering the program. And that's where my, I would say my experiences come in. So that's why I'm at Mace. And Mace, it's about delivering greater outcomes. So that's what Mace does.
Amazing. So now I'm really excited for the conversation. Thanks, Priya. I know one of the things Mace is great at is delivering very complex projects, right? And complex projects often require like an integration of a lot of things, right? Planning, cost management, consulting, oversight of the construction. How do you go about ensuring that those like technical aspects are optimized throughout an entire life cycle of a project or program?
You know what I like that you use project life cycle, right? Because if you think about it, it's really about pulling it all together, starting from when the concept is in a client's mind, taking it all the way to quote unquote delivery. And when I say delivery, it could be different things. It could be about operating a train. It could be about getting a building up and running. And from a standpoint of technical skills, I think it's a given. You have to bring technical skills to the table. The art becomes how do you end up pulling it all together, where the interfaces are happening when you're putting these things in one place. And I want to talk a little bit about the collaborative delivery model that Mace had pioneered during London Olympics, because that was one of the things that as we started looking at it, we said, hey, uh, we'll bring all the right technical people to the table, but how do you get them to move in the same direction? And how do you end up making sure that you are not only just delivering an quote unquote project or program, but you're actually having an impact on communities, but then also delivering an outcome, which is get the London Olympics up and running. And one of the things that the terminology I would say is we need to start looking at delivery almost as a management discipline. So we ended up approaching that London Olympics, this model in 2006 as a management discipline, where we were able to develop the entire program uh, or deliver it ahead of schedule, 10% below budget, and ultimately, more importantly, created a legacy. So, what is this management discipline? It is about providing a common framework with clearly defined controls and performance measures. We all talk about that one source of truth, right? I mean, I'm sure Eric, you've been in situations where sometimes you sit back and say, I'm getting a piece of information from this team, then I'm getting another piece of information, then a third piece of information. But at the end of the day, sometimes you get wrapped around the axle on how do you link that together and is the data even accurate? So that's why I'm using that word, one source of truth, because it absolutely eliminates ambiguity. And you're getting into data, you're getting using data as a tool or as an enabler. So the aim is to get everyone from your own teams, from our own organizations, supply chain, clients, get everyone to really leave their respective badges at the door and work together as one team focused on the best interest. And then when they're all on the same page, we can then focus on looking at these interdependencies. We can look at the experts to answer the technical questions, but then we can look at it and say, how do these technical tools get mated together? And one of the advantage of that is we're really able to predict, right? Against a lot of times when we get into situations, we are reacting to an issue. But if you have this one source of truth, you have gotten your vision going, you have actually set what I would call leading indicators in place, you're getting into proactive management. And then you are, because that then helps us address any of the issues with productivity, costs, and schedule performance. So it's about, to sum it up, right? It's about POPID. We like using this word, and it's deploying a management system that aligns people, organization, processes, information, and technology together throughout the life cycle of the job. It centers on people and then preempting conflicts that can make or break mega programs.
There's a two topics in there I absolutely love, and I obviously the entire answer I think is fantastic. Um, but one is you use the word proactive, and it is a word that we constantly use in our office. And to us almost as a consultant and maybe similar to you guys, it's I think a big part of our job is to anticipate and solve proactively the problems that may arise, right? Being reactive is good, right? And some companies are great at being reactive. But if you're proactive, that's the best place you can be because you're anticipating, right? And you're solving things before they've caused any delay or before they've caused the cost impact or before, they've challenged the project in some way. So I love that you use the word proactive. We do that a lot.
You
Um,
know, I've learned in my life there's no perfect project.
yeah,
Wrong, right? We all know that. And even if there's a perfect project, we'll sit there and say what did we miss, right? So
yeah.
the more we can anticipate problems and kind of come up with a plan B, the better it is. And at the same time, then go deal with any of the reactive situations. So yep, it's predictive. It's getting more predictability and proactiveness. Absolutely. So I'm glad you guys are using it too. So
Yeah. And then the other thing you said that, it speaks volumes throughout the entire company, and we're working very diligently to solving this internally as well as externally for our clients. Single source of truth. I think one of the greatest challenges we have in operational efficiency is this product is really good at this, and this other tech solution is really good at this, but they don't talk to each other. And now we've got great information in two separate silos, and there's still either administrators or some sort of back office reconciliation that's not real time, it's not instantaneous. And we're making decisions based on the information in one of the, potentially in one of those two systems, depending on what you have access to and visibility to. So, single source of truth is like, it's very hard, but done right, I think it eliminates a tremendous amount of operational inefficiencies, and it gives your team the information they need, right? They can make better decisions because they have the information at their fingertips.
and you know what? Nobody can argue with data. I mean, if I look at what we do, a lot of it is can be very. I know that we can make it a science. Data always helps, and there's a little bit of art. But uh, if you can go ahead and take care of the data, then you can go ahead and make the right decisions. And at the end of the day, even if I look at human behaviors, right? I mean, think about how much time we end up spending discussing is this the right information or not. So it's
Yeah.
efficiency, but then effectiveness, when we can go ahead and start answering the so what and saying, yep, we've got the data. Now let's not argue about that data, but now let's talk about how are we going to solve it.
You just said the word art, and as you were answering the previous question there, you talked about the life cycle starting with the vision, right, of an owner. And I just love that, right? Because what we do as an industry is kind of we create art in real life, right? Someone has a vision, they want to see it. The canvas is the world for us.
Yeah,
And then we're
absolutely.
kind of the paint and the brushes. We get it, into reality, into
Yeah,
existence. So um
definitely. Right. That's what they say, right? There's this overlap between science and remember, I'm sure you remember, right? We used to talk about STEM, but now we're
yeah,
talking STEAM, right?
Steve, yep.
Well, acknowledgement that it's not just about hard black and white. There are black and whites, but there are grays that we need to start addressing as industry.
There's a little bit of art
Yeah.
for sure. So when we're talking about single source of truth, and some of those are like innovative and tech solutions, but there's a lot of innovation happening in construction. And I know Mace is kind of on the forefront of some of it. And I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk to us a little bit about some of the other construction innovations. Maybe construction to production, maybe how you're using AI. You talked a lot about data in your last answer. I mean, AI is gonna, I think Bezos recently he said something like AI is going to be like electricity. It's gonna be in everything. You're just gonna have to figure out how it fits your world, kind of situation. So talk to us a little bit about that. How do you think that like AI, these innovative construction processes are going to reshape project plan delivery?
You know what? A really good question because again, everywhere really look, there's a word that's getting used, technology. Now, technology can mean different things to different people. AI is getting used. And it was interesting. I was having a very interesting conversation with some of my techie friends who are in California. And we started talking about, is it is it truly generative AI, right? I mean, so there's such an amazing conversation going on. And if I look at our industry, uh, I mean, how much we have moved forward in the last 5 to 10 years. And I think COVID has kind of accelerated that because technology is becoming part and center of it. And if I look at it now from a Mace angle, Mace has two engines. One is the construction engine, one is the consulting engine, which is professional services. And as part of Mace, what we've been doing is this, how do we tie these two together? And that's when some of the constructive product conversations are going on. And Mace's thing is that we want to go ahead and challenge. the boundaries, right? We want to be in the forefront. And I know there are that sometimes you have to deliver on these can be buzzwords unless until you can show proofs around it. So one of the things I want to talk about is this whole C2P. And at Mace, what we are trying to do is this: we are looking at this approach. The word that's also getting used is stick to parts, right? That's basically take about 80% of the construction fabrication offsite to a controlled production environment, right? What that does is you can go ahead. There are certain things that you can standardize, right? And if you can standardize them and build them offsite, then can we bring them up into local areas and start assembling it over there? It is it helps with not disrupting operations on busy sites like airports and density locations. It also improves effectiveness. We started the conversation with how do you make sure cost, schedule, all of those get done right. So this innovation will also help us with has helped us with effectiveness of project delivery. It's almost like a lift and shift, right? So you're using technology. I think the challenge is get in front, right? So start having this conversation during the design itself, where you start looking at digital twins, AI analytics. Where can you go ahead and put standardization? And then from there, how do you control quality in a controlled environment? And then ultimately get into logistics and safety and building. So getting into and how do you then accelerate delivery? And we have done a bit of that at the Manchester airport. We have looked at Heathrow. And if you start, when you look at it, when you've seen the advantages, it also has, sometimes people get worried, like, hey, if you're going to go do this offsite, I mean, let's talk about our environment, right? It's about creating jobs and economies. If you're going to do this all offsite, how are you going to make sure that you are not impacting the labor pool or the talent? And what we have been also doing is building that in to say that this construction to production allows us to streamline things. At the same time, it helps us upskill our supply chain, right? Because you can use digital modeling. You can go ahead and start talk college students. You can look at and say, and then it feeds to the next generation. So it kind of hits upon multiple angles, which is not just about let's get better at or save cost. It's more around knitting it all together.
I've heard that as a challenge. I mean, I think you know, prefab in some way, especially when you're building something in what we'll call a construction environment as opposed to let's call it a manufacturing environment. I mean, the quality control, the consistency, the standardization, it's just unmatched, right? In a factory or manufacturing setting. But that is a concern, right? That we're essentially taking jobs from the local economy and shipping them out to a different location wherever the facility is located. And typically, or I shouldn't say typically, because it's probably not true, but in the few jobs that we've worked on like that, those those fabrication shops have been like at least one, if not more states over, and then shipped or barged. And so it's like a very real challenge. And
And
oh, go ahead.
sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, no,
Sorry.
no, 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 sure.
Yeah. Just to, finish your train of thought. I think I'm just going to reinforce something. So
Yeah, yeah, please do.
Uh, I think it's interesting you made a comment about, and I want to go focus in a little bit on the quality side of things, right? If you think about any of these big mega programs where it's the rework that can sometimes cause a lot of challenges. So if we can say that there are some things that can be standardized, then we can go ahead and focus a little bit more on the unknowns, right? There,
Yes.
as we were talking about, there's no perfect project, right? So how do we make sure that we can standardize certain things, maintain quality, so that way we then give people the headspace to go and deal with the unknowns that
No, for sure. And then so, you said something to me earlier in our pre-call, right before this, about how important people are to the entire operation, right? So now we've touched on technology, we're touching on materials and fabrication a little bit here. Um, but talk to us about that, right? How do you manage the human factors of a project? Standardization is great, data is great, all these things, but they're relying on the people that are going to execute them. Um, so, how do you rely on them to make or break your complex projects? And then is there I'm a big fan of management quotes, and actually one that I'll share right now because you said in the previous answer that in some ways Mace tries to challenge the status quo, right? You're thinking bigger and outside the box, it sounds like. And one of my favorite quotes is and now I'm going to mess it up, but it's like, never doubt that a small committed group of people can change the world because it is honestly the only thing that ever has changed the world, right? And so I love that quote. I should probably share it more than I do. Um, but it's true for so many things. I think it's a Steve Jobs quote, but I could be wrong.
Oh my
Um,
God. I love Steve Jobs quotes. I love Warren Buffett's quotes, but that
yeah,
is the cool one. I think what you're saying is it's those little things that you end up doing, right? There's a whole North Star and a utopia we are working towards, but at the end of the day, it's these little steps, and we cannot underestimate every little
yeah.
step that gets taken to get to the ultimate goal. I have to go pull it up and see the exact quote, but I think it's a beautiful quote. Yes.
I'll share it with you after this. But the reason I kind of mention that here, is I think to me, like the essence of it is don't doubt yourself and kind of always challenge the status quo, right? Just because you small, company or individual or whatever, you can always have an impact if you're willing to be outspoken about it. But I'll bring you back to the question. Sorry, because I kind of got distracted. But so addressing the human factors in a complex project, like how does Mace go about doing that? How do you create a positive like culture and environment for your team? How do you ensure you mentioned a lot about collaboration, and that's true for all of us, right? While we're on the project, there's probably 15 other firms, multiple owners, probably several other agencies that are involved or at least have a say. How are you? I'll just share with you. That's the question. How are you managing humans and people and making sure that that's being positively dealt with on a project?
You know at the end of the what key question, right? At the end of the day, it's all about humans, right? Now, if I look at consultings, we don't make any widgets. It's all about our people and how do you
Yep.
bring diverse experiences together. How do you, and I strongly believe in leading from strength rather than from weakness, right? So to me, why I want to knit it together. At the end of the day, human behaviors and human drivers can make or break our project. So, you can have the best technology, as you said, you can have the best design, you can have everything, but if you don't have the teams moving in the same direction, it does not help. And one of the things we look at is we do end up, from a Mace perspective, collaboration is not just a buzzword, and it is more around integrated governance, right? And I again go back to that one source of truth. So one of the things that we really emphasize is the one team culture. We do take a pause. A lot of times, one of the things we look at is take a pause. Where are we trying? Let's go back to what the vision is. What's the outcome we are trying to drive, and then work backwards from there. We spend a lot of time talking about team culture, and when I say team culture, it can become a very soft word, but we also have to see what are we putting in place to be able to go measure team culture, right? So that's where the integrated governance comes in. We look at here are the things that we want to drive towards. What's the collaboration? How are we going to measure collaboration, consistency? Also, let's be transparent with our data so that everyone, when they look at it, they realize this is where we need to get to, but this is where we are. And then we have these honest discussions. So and it's about creating that safe space, right? I can tell you the number of times we have been in programs and projects where uh, when we get into a room, we are actually, again, there's always a project manager, there's always an hierarchy, there's always a project director, there's the client, but we create this environment where people can actually openly question irrespective of the role that they are playing or where they sit within the hierarchy. So it's really about creating that one team culture and creating a safe space, but then backing it up with real life information so that the people can point to it and say that it's working. And then the other element is around elevating the capabilities. We do end up looking at what capabilities are. We kind of do like maturity assessments, right? So we look at a maturity assessment of a program and project, come up with a timeline. We also tie into that people component on capabilities and saying, what do we need to do to go elevate the capabilities of our people? But not only our people, but also the supply chain. So, and again, I don't want to say it's about competencies. It's about delivering the next big thing and then saying, here are the gaps that need to be filled in as, but then also increasing our strengths. So just and the end goal and it's been fascinating for me, right? If I look at London Olympics, if I look at some of the work we are doing at Metrolinx, let's speak about our backyard, Hudson Tunnel. Yes, we will absolutely go deliver that program as part of the our mandate. But the thing that gets people excited is the purpose. What are we really delivering? We're delivering this big, mega uh, transportation program, which is, we can say that, or we can say we are delivering something that is really going to have an impact and leave a legacy for communities to come. So as part of this one team culture, we kind of focus on the latter. The program is going to get delivered, but it's what are you doing for communities? So and how you're creating a legacy.
I love that perspective. The two big drivers behind the show are, kind of bringing to life the projects we work on and how they positively impact the community. So I'm gonna ask you a direct question about that just now. And then the other half is like, what are we doing? And you touched on, what kind of, I think you guys have some programs, and I'm going to give you an opportunity later to talk about it, to develop the supply chain and potentially even diverse and small businesses and things of that nature. So, but right now, because you're talking about how the project's going to impact the community, you've talked about the London Olympics, you've talked about Manchester Airport. I want to give you an opportunity to tell us about like a particular one, two, maybe even three projects you worked on that really impacted the community, and what made them unique, what excited you about them. And I will say, like, the Hudson Tunnel it's going to deliver, it's going to be delivered, but what it's really providing is it's going to be opportunity, right? It's going to economically change our region, right? The entire Northeast, not even just our region. It's going to hopefully free up and ease up commuter, right? Transportation as well. Like, so it's going to change so much of our lives that we're just used to doing. And that's what a lot of our projects do. We've had some guests come on and talk about East Side Access, and that has changed the way, Long Islanders especially travel to the city. And we've had guests come on and talk about the new airports, right? And that's changed the way people view America, right? If you're an immigrant and the first thing or not even an immigrant, you're just visiting, and the first thing you see is a really nice airport or a dilapidated airport, that's going to drive your vision for where you think you are for the rest of the trip, right? That was your first experience then. So tell us about some unique projects you've worked on and really impacted the community.
So, you know what, I put it in two buckets. And one is around what have I worked on personally, but then I really want to highlight some of the work that the teams and Mace and what we have contributed to. So let me start off with, and it's fascinating you make that comment about the airport, right? And I'll put in my immigrant story a little bit over here. So I landed at JFK in 1990. And as I landed at that airport from India, I'm like, oh my God, where am I? What have I done? Right? And again, no, this thing. But to your point, right? It's that showcase. And then I look at what we are doing at JFK with the 2050 vision and what we are trying to do. And I'm just at LaGuardia recently, and even at Terminal A in New York. Oh God, state of the art, right? It's about experience. It's about customer experience and about. I believe very strongly in what is the first impression that people get when they come to your part of the world, right? And that is what those programs are delivering. So so it's not, yes, the programs will get delivered, but it's that huge economic impact that can happen. And how do you attract businesses and everything else? So Hudson Tunnel is close to my heart because I worked on the original art tunnel, uh, and I'm an environmental engineer by trade, right? So a lot of work that was getting done was around really making sure that you are getting the right platforms in place. When the program got shut down or got delayed, and when this one came up again, for me, that was like, oh my God, I absolutely want to be part of it. And I'm really glad that we as a company are part of this. But this is like for me a personal piece because it's in my backyard, and I want to be the one riding the train in 2028. Now, from a Mace perspective, uh, so when you introduced me, you said Americas, right? So I'm the team that I have is in US, Canada, and Latin America, specifically in Peru. And I want to give a shout out to the work that our teams are doing in Peru. We are working on two national programs in Peru, and this is really the government's infrastructure reconstruction and resilience program, and then the bicentennial schools program. And our work is we are mitigating about $5 billion in infrastructure losses from catastrophic floods. And we're doing this huge building campaign with about 74 schools, 18 hospitals, 40 plus flood defense projects. Have had, there's some really cool, and I'll share some LinkedIn's with you, some very cool videos of what we have done over there. And what resonated for me was El Nino, when that comes through, one of the schools that we had done, that became a safe spot for a lot of the community, right? So it kind of gives me goosebumps when I talk about the impact we are having on communities. And on the bicentennial school programs, we were recently named as one of the most transformative programs by the Association of Project Management, delivering about 75 state-of-the-art education facilities. And where that and the work, some of the work that we have done in Peru, we also leverage technology where we have brought in BIM and other things. So basically, the work that we did on BIM is not getting used nationally across Peru. So it's not just it's communities, but then it's also how we are quote unquote upskilling or introducing new technology. So that's the Peru one. If I think about, I mean, I look at what we have done in New York with Tiffany, right? That landmark program. I mean,
Yes.
fascinating. Uh, Now, yes, it is. It's a big luxury retail, but think about the impact it has had on jobs, right? It's that huge retail, uh, uh, luxury retail program that we have delivered. So it can everything that we are doing right now kind of helps us to deliver some of those elements. And then when I look at Metro Links up in Canada. Metro Lanes, again, one of the really large transit programs. And I have to go pull up my stats on this one so that I don't misspeak, right? But it's one of the largest transit investments that has been taken. And uh, we are partnering at the enterprise and the project levels and multiple projects going on. So when we started our conversation, we said, how do you knit it across the life cycle, right? So in this particular one, we're at the programmatic level, but then same things are being applied at the project level. It's the local supply chain, it's future workforce development, and kind of circling back, it's about community colleges. So that's where Metrolinks comes in. And before I jump into my own personal one, which I always talk about, and I'm actually going to bring it up over here. I will pull out one little brick. Uh, so Hudson, we've spoken a lot about it, but to me, that's the showcase. And I also want to go back to a little bit to Tiffany, right? Because when I look at Tiffany, it's also a testament to the resilience of New York, right? When we started, because all of these things is really about bringing how do we contribute to the overall New York resilience. On a personal level, this was early on in my career. I was working on a chemical plant, and New Jersey is a hotbed of was used to be a hotbed of manufacturing. Manufacturing is coming back, but because of certain reasons, and this was the time when all the environmental regulations were coming in, and I was leading a program where we had to go figure out how do we clean up the site. By the way, make sure that we can also make the site usable for community. And as the program was shut down, or as the project site was shut down, we actually ended up cleaning up the site, but more importantly, it got used for a big box retail. And this was one of those areas which was a little bit underdeveloped or was going through resurgence. And by building that big box store, in parallel to when all of this uh, cleanup was going on, I drive past that store and I can see the number of cars over there. I can see what an impact it has had on that community, kind of brings it to life. And what I want to show, I'm going to get up for a minute. Here's a little brick. It's from 1800 from that chemical plant. And I keep this and I look at it every day because this is like real life for me. Sometimes when you work on projects, sometimes you may not see the end outcome, right? So being able to say, hey, here are these things that are real life, and it's just fun to go drive past it and tell my kids, I worked on this one. Yeah. So there are some things that yeah, we all have an impact, and goes back to what you're saying, the quote that you use, right? It's the little impacts that lead to the bigger, uh, those little drops that contribute to the bigger outcomes. So
That is awesome. And I love that you keep that brick. That is so cool.
hey, let's put it this way, right? This is real life. And I'm going to give you a Steve Jobs quote, right? Because I think there can be so many things that we can be working on. And sometimes I have to remind myself that it's okay to say no, right? So the Jobs quote, right? Innovation comes from saying no to 1,000 things. So uh, now you have to, doesn't mean that you don't go try out things, but also at the same time focus. And what are the things and what is that core that you're working towards? So for me, that core and for when I look at Mace's values, it is about what impact are we having on communities. I think that kind of becomes a centerpiece for everything. And
I have the same philosophy, right? I mean, we work on a lot of great projects. It's very exciting. But at the end of the day, it's about the impact we have on the communities that really makes you feel good about what you do every day. And it's kind of the essence of the podcast, right? Building better futures. It's for the communities, for the people. That's what we do as a profession. So very exciting.
and I love the title, right? So when you and I started talking about it, and when I heard building better, I'm like, oh, absolutely. I want to be part of this. So yeah.
During that last answer, you mentioned about upskilling, supply chain, community college. Um, how do you do that? Like that. I think it's important for all of us to be doing that, and that is part of the show. Is we're trying to inspire people to understand that yes, building a building, okay, that's cool, but it's the impact on the communities. It's about the essence of public works, right? Building for the public good. So tell us a little bit about how do you guys accomplish that, right? How do you upskill the chain? How do you use diverse businesses? How do you get small businesses involved? Things like that.
Yeah. So we have our own programs internally within Mace, right? The graduate programs team. So we do end up collaborating with a number of schools and really pulling in graduates in who kind of go through a little bit of a rotation. In addition to that, we also have interns that we bring in during the summer. And Mace overall, I'll have to go drop you some notes on it. I just remember that there's a couple of things that we do in the UK side where we have a very, very robust emerging talent program. So there's this whole thing of attracting the young generation over, because again, at the end of the day, uh, sometimes we sometimes we can be seen as a stodgy industry. So how do you make it really attractive? And that's where when you look at technology and others. Now, as far as minority partners and all, again, that is again in our DNA. So at the end of the day, what we look at is we have big partnerships with a number of our minority suppliers. And it's not just a check in the box. It's really about sitting down with them and saying, where is it that they see the gaps and what can we bring into the table to be able to go and uh, share and collaborate with them, right? So again, a lot of times we get in, sometimes we can get into they can be a situation where people say it's the right way, right? And again, I would say the most values and behaviors are, look, at the end of the day, it's about changing the industry. So if we are doing something that we can share and collaborate with some of our minority partners or wherever our other supply chain partners are, that's their sense on it. So it's about being very deliberate, right? So this has to be a program that is deliberate, and it has to have some certain objectives tied to it. So that way it does not become quote unquote checking the boxes. And again, I highlighted some of the Peru stuff that we had talked about. What we had done was supply chain, right? So we had construction partners, and we ended up then talking to them and upskilling, training them on BIM, and then also giving them the tools. And at the end of the day, uh, it was about walking away where they did not have to keep coming back to us. And then they could go ahead and use that the next project, the next program, right? So this whole thing with minority supply chain, it's about how do we create a framework where at some point Mace becomes redundant and that company can get up and go do whatever needs to be done. And by the way, it's a two-way street. I cannot tell you how many times, like even in conversation with you and other supply chain partners, how much have I learned? Because again, we bring diverse expertise and experiences, right? So
That's a really interesting answer. And I particularly liked because so often as we're filling in on project teams, we're trying to fill the gaps that our primes are having. I think it's interesting that you're actually going down and maybe asking your supply chain, like, what are gaps you're seeing that maybe we can help fill? And I love that you're open to that honest conversation. That's probably rare. I don't know that happens that often. So it's great that you're taking that approach. So I will last question, and then we'll jump into the lightning round. Uh, But to inspire the next generation of professionals, right?
oh, oh,
I'm going to ask you because I've been very fortunate to receive a lot of good advice throughout my life. I've had some great mentors. If you had the opportunity to give one piece of advice to the next generation of engineers, what would that advice be?
I think I would put it in gain exposure to new experiences, right? It's about whether it is diverse teams, whether it's new roles, new markets. Uh, don't hesitate to, you don't have to be just like in a singular this thing, right? It's about curiosity. Uh, get to broaden your horizons a little bit. And it is okay to say that I don't know it because I mean, just as you said, you've gotten lots of really good advice and mentorship, right? I've been very lucky that I've had some really good mentors around me, but for them to be able to have an impact on me, I have to be the first one to say, look, I don't know it. It's okay to be vulnerable. So be open to new experiences, but that also comes with vulnerability. And by the way, there's a group of people who are going to be very willing to help, to guide you, and to help you. Because there are people, as I'm getting to as I think about my career, I'm like, one, when someone comes up and asks me questions, I'm more than happy to share my knowledge. So there's a lot of people who want to share their knowledge. So along with that answer, at the end of the day, curiosity and openness to exploring new things. But that requires thinking a little bit and be self-aware of what you know and what you don't know.
So, in summary, it sounds like say yes, right, to new opportunities. Don't be scared to say you don't know something. And this industry is full of people that want to help and
Yep.
give advice and give back, but you have to ask because we don't know that, you don't know that someone wants it. I don't know that someone wants it unless they actually come out and ask us for it. So
Right? Yes.
amazing.
Summary. That's awesome, Eric. Yes.
Awesome, awesome advice. So now we're going to jump into our lightning round. This will be quick, but it'll be fun.
Okay.
And these are just, I just get to know you a little bit better with these questions, and like the audience does too. But so I don't know if you like to watch TV, but the question is, are you the type of person that like watches one episode at a time, or do you like to binge watch shows when you watch something?
Oh, I love getting to the end sooner than so I will watch one episode and then I will be like, okay, what's the end going to be? So that I don't have to spend my time binge watch.
It's actually so funny you said that because over the weekend, my wife went out to dinner with one of her friends. And so I was home and I watched like an episode of it and a half of something. And I was like, this is really good, but I can't watch 8 episodes of this. So I turned it off. I went to Wikipedia. I got the summary. And honestly, it's the craziest twist. I never would have realized like that was what was going to happen. But I'm really glad I didn't wait at 8 episodes.
Oh, but my family hates me because they're like, please don't tell us what's going to happen in the endings.
All right. Are you like a physical strength kind of person or a mental strength kind of person?
I They're both interconnected for me. I'm both physical and mental strength because the linkage between the two, for me, as I have gained my experiences, there's a strong linkage between the two.
Between 'em.
So for me, I focus on both.
Very cool. Do you mind if I like what do you do for the mental strength aspect? Like do you meditate or do you read or what's your
Uh,
time alone like?
I would say it's meditation, and then also it's family. It's because I think it's the provocative conversations and discussions that we have that get me to think a bit differently. So that's what gets me going from a mental strength perspective.
Very cool. All right, next one. Again, I don't know if you like to sing or not, but go to karaoke song.
Oh my goodness, it's all Bollywood songs.
Yeah?
Get Bollywood songs going, and I'll be singing along, even though I can't sing.
We had my cousin's wedding and so I was in India. I just got back like a week and a half
Okay.
ago. And I mean I do too. Like I was born and raised here, but Indian music is great. Bollywood movies are great. Do you want to share one song? What's a Bollywood song you really like?
What's a Bollywood song that I really like? I like actually a song from Jodha Akbar. And there's a couple of songs over there, and one of them is like my favorite. And don't ask me to sing it or say it, but yes, there's one from there that I really
No,
love.
we'll spare you that.
Yeah.
And then I kind of like these are picked randomly, and I guess today was a very like media driven one, but favorite movie, that was the next one.
Favorite movie? Oh, okay. I have so many of them, but let me think. Which one would I keep going back to again and again? You know what? My favorite one is Boom 2. Boom 2.
Really?
It absolutely is. Doom 2 and I would say I love watching the Mission Impossible movies. So Doom 2 is my favorite one, and I think some of it is just sometimes my movies become favorite because of the experiences, and that's one of the movies that I know we used to watch a lot with the girls when they were little, and
Oh,
somehow
that's
that
cool.
became our like quote unquote holiday type of.
Yeah. We have that like kind of with my sister, and it's Kolonaho for her. Like growing up, that we just watched that a lot, I guess. And so one time we were listening to the soundtrack in the car, and this is gonna date me a bit, I guess. But she loves the music, and it was always in the car. So I was like, "Oh, don't worry, I'll burn a copy of the CD for you, right? And I'll give you the CD." And she's like, "Don't burn that CD. That's my favorite CD." I was like, "Awesome." So, and to your point about Doom, my brother loves those movies. So next time you see him, you can mention.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And then lots of others that you on the spot with one, but I can come up with a few others. But Boot was the one that would really keep going.
No, I think it's great. That was for fun. It's okay. So, but thank you for being on. It's all the time we have for today. And thanks again to the audience for listening. Priya, would you like to close us out with any final words?
Thank you so much, Eric. And really, really great conversations. And it's about changing the industry. It's about how do we go ahead and collaborate across, bring those diverse experiences together to be able to deliver, as you said, better outcomes. And happy holidays to everyone. And hopefully there'll be quite a few of us who are listening who'll be riding that train on Hudson Tunnel on when the first train that gets up and running. So again, happy holidays.
That's going to be amazing. So thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Building Better Futures. The show notes include links to any resources mentioned in today's show. If you're enjoying our podcast, please subscribe so you never miss an episode and leave us a 5-star review. This episode is brought to you by Infinite Consulting Corp., your go-to firm for MBE certified project and construction management consulting. Discover how Infinite can help you build a better future at infiniteconsultingcorp.com.